Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Wednesday, September 24th, 2025, and I'm here to tell you in 15 minutes or less why the two-state solution is impossible, it's unworkable, and is unrealistic, and in its current framework will never be enacted. It is a it is a distraction, and it is a feel-good moment for a lot of the European countries who have turned a blind eye to what's going on in Gaza. But this does nothing for the Palestinian people who need real solutions and who are running out of time and running out of opportunities to salvage what could be a Palestinian state. And so, anyway, if we go back in time to the 9th century BC, we can see the basic setup of what we call now in the Western culture the Holy Land. And these states basically form what we understand to be the Holy Land and what is now Israel and Palestine, which isn't even Palestine; it's the West Bank and Gaza. So anyway, the only thing to get out of here is to see the overall shape that this goes back a long time. So there's a concept of there's identity of geography, and so many say, well, they don't have any identity; they're identityless people. But you can go back a long time in this area, and you can find identity. So, but anyway, the other curious thing here is the Philistine area is basically what is Gaza today. So the fact that the Palestinian people are in the Philistine area or Philistine, however you want to call it, is not lost on the modern Israeli people. So this is a unfortunate association for the Palestinians. If we move on to 1750, we have a map of Palestine, and you can see that the Crusader mentality continued to be alive and well with the idea of the Holy Land, the Terre Sante, the Holy Land. Um, and so they're still talking about that after losing the Crusades. And you have Palestina. So I believe that there was a U.S. senator who said that Palestine doesn't exist. There's not. They don't have a concept of who they are or there are. But anyway, we can go back to 1750 and say we definitely have a concept of what Palestine is, and so it certainly existed long before that. Now we go into modern Palestine, which is a map from 1851. This is a map of the Ottoman Palestine, and the Ottoman Empire cared very little or nothing for this area. It had no meaning for them. They weren't interested in building or maintaining pilgrimage sites. They were only interested in maintaining the Crusaders or the Western people from invading what was their land, but they did very little. They cared very little about it, and so the Ottoman Empire ended after World War One when they lost that war, and the administration of Palestine passed to the British. But anyway, here is another map from 1869, which is the German map. And the Germans were also fanatical Christians in the Middle Ages and were also obsessed with the whole concept of Holy Land. But anyway, we can move on here to the map from 1920, the British administered area. And I can't say that exactly corresponds to the geography of 9th century BC, but it's very similar. And in this moment that the British began to administer Palestine, they had all the opportunity to create a national identity, to create a country and a people, but they had already guaranteed this land for the Jewish state in the Balfour Agreement. So basically, they were just keeping this land until the Jewish Zionists could enter in and begin to take over this land little by little. And so then we move on to the UN partition, and this continued to complicate. This complicated the situation more for the Palestinian people. Now, instead of having a contiguous area, they were um, forced into three different um, chunks of land which were not contiguous, and so they're all like three different provinces without a real connection one with the other. So this was the first bad news for the Palestinian people. I guess the second bad news. The first one was the British Empire taking over Palestine when the British had already promised the Palestine to the Jewish Zionists. So, and then finally we have what was the last nail in the coffin, which is the Oslo Agreement, and the Oslo Agreement was uh, probably the worst negotiated agreement that the Palestinians have ever done. And so this further subdivided what was considered to be their land into three different sections. There was the one zone that they exclusively managed. There was a second zone that they managed along with the Israelis, and a third zone which was administered by the Israelis. So you can see the orange is certainly a much more homogeneous area than these little chunks all over. So you can see from all these little chunks, the area that's exclusively Palestinian is the light blue. I don't know if you want to call it blue or teal or what it is, but anyway, this light blue, you have a little chunk here, a big chunk here, and then they look more like islands in a sea rather than a unified area. So this was probably the last nail in the coffin of the Palestinian state. And then since then to today, they've only continued to subdivide up more and more, and so eventually these different teal or light blue areas began to be cut off one from the other by walls that the um, Israeli settlers put up or by the Jewish state. So eventually, we're talking about people who are living in their own little neighborhoods cut off from the neighborhood next to it without any way of getting there. Or by having to take a long road and driving all the way around to get to it. So anyway, this Oslo agreement basically was the death of the possibility of the Palestinian state, and there's nothing we can do under the current situation to create a Palestinian state from all these little chunks that are all separated from each other. And so I'm not saying that a two-state solution isn't possible, because they could go back to the drawing board and create a contiguous area for the Palestinians, another contiguous area um, for Israel, but with the United States basically using all its muscle to um, to stop any possibility of a Palestinian state and finding a solution within the current framework. This is going to be impossible. So I'm sorry to say that I think that the Palestinian state, without some major restructuring of these geographical areas, will eventually cease to exist, and the Palestinian people will be forced off this land. So anyway, this is my point of view about the situation. But I think all this time spent trying to create a two-state solution is is a waste of time, and it distracts uh, from the real issues that need to be resolved. And the main issue is the restructuring of these areas into contiguous areas for both the Palestinians and Israelis, and so possibly a buffer zone between the two. And basically, that is my point about the two-state solution. It's impossible. And but if you think that there's a possibility of working with these little islands separated off from each other in Gaza, then please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in another video. And thank you for supporting independent journalism. Have a good day. Bye-bye.